As you can see, I have the new QiYi 2x2, 3x3, 4x4, 5x5, and Pyraminx from SpeedCubesShop.com. They aren't released yet, but I've been told these should be releasing sometime soon. Oddly, they don't have an official name yet, so I'm going to call these the QiYi Yeets. Once I'm done, I'll do a 2x2 through 5x5 relay since I really do enjoy that. So yeah, starting with the 2x2. From what I understand, all the plastic is exactly the same, so I won't bother featuring the plastic and feel for each of these cubes. It has a semi-gloss and kind of matted feel to it, kind of feels like it has a little powder to it, and it doesn't really slip around in my hands, so this feels pretty good overall from a texture standpoint. Going into the specs, the 2x2 is 50 millimeters, it weighs 57 grams, and I'll update you once the price releases on SpeedCubesShop.com. Corner cutting is around that 45-degree mark. So not exactly mind-blowing, but out of the box, this does feel pretty dry. Magnetic strength is pretty medium, and it doesn't feel too defined. Going into first turns, this is a little locky, but not that bad. It turns really fast, but I don't really feel the magnetic impact. The pieces do really seem to glide well, and the turning is pretty effortless. Overall, this feels pretty stable. Breaking this down, the core is your basic QiYi green core, so nothing new and exciting here. The corner pieces have 2 magnets on each piece, which I love, and honestly, this should be the standard for all 2x2s if it isn't already. Okay, let's get this back together and move on to the 3x3. This 3x3 looks pretty interesting, and from the top, I do see it has some center tracks. It's 56 millimeters, it weighs 80 grams, and again, once the price is available, I will update it in the description. Corner cutting is around that 50-degree mark, so again, not too mind-blowing. Reverse corner cutting is around that first line, so again, not really mind-blowing. Going into first turns, the magnetic strength off the bat is similar to the 2x2. It's pretty medium. Overall, this really does feel pretty good. Not as strong magnetically as I'd like, but it's really fast and smooth. Breaking this down, again, the core is your standard 3x3 core from QiYi. However, you'll notice a center lip around the piece. I've seen these mainly in Moyu puzzles, and I really like them because of stability. The edges are built out really interestingly. It doesn't seem to make sense with this puzzle in that it doesn't really fit snug with the core or the corner. Speaking of the corner, it's more standard with the grooves around the entire piece, and it does have a long corner stock. All right, getting this back together and moving on to the 4x4. All right, so off the bat, this feels a bit larger than most 4x4s I'm used to using. It looks like it's 62 millimeters. It weighs 134 grams. And again, with the price, I'll update you when I get that. Corner cutting is just past that first line. So yeah, kind of on par with all these cubes, not very mind-blowing. Magnetic strength on the outers is pretty weak, while the magnetic strength on the inners is much stronger. Going into first turns, this is very locky for me personally. I'm not sure if I really enjoy this, to be honest. It's fast, but for me personally, I'm interrupted by the lockups. I'm personally getting faster at 4x4, and compared to the Aosu GTS 2M 4x4 that I main, this doesn't even come close. With that said, I would imagine this is going to come out on a very budgeted price. We'll have to see. Breaking it down, the core is yet again another example of amazing core technology greatness from QiYi. Anyways, the edge and the corners are very basic, no grooves at all, and a very seemingly to simple design. So yeah, I can see why I don't have a great experience with this. Anyways, enough. Let's get this back together and move on to the 5x5. From first feel, this doesn't have a very stable feel to it. It is 63 millimeters, it weighs 160 grams, and I don't need to mention the price because I don't have it yet, but once I get it, I will update it. Corner cutting is around that first line, and honestly, this feels pretty loose. Going into first turns, the outer magnets feel a bit on the medium side, while the center magnets feel pretty weak. I'm not sure if this is how the final product is intended to be, but so far I am not a fan of this 5x5. Kind of like I suspected, this really isn't stable. Don't get me wrong, it's fast, but I find that I rely a lot on the center magnets to keep it in place and in line, and it's kind of all over the place. Because of this, I get a considerable amount of lockups and catching, and this isn't a 5x5 I would personally use, but again, I rely a lot on magnets due to my sloppy turning. Okay, let's break this down and look inside. Do I even need to mention the core at this point? I will point out, though, the massive center plate over this piece. Wow. As for the edges and corners, there isn't much for grooves, but the pieces fit together really nice, and the edge torpedo is one of the biggest 5x5 torpedoes I've ever seen. Very impressive. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on to the Pyraminx. Okay, this is the new QiYi Pyraminx. From first feel, it's pretty loose, and loose isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm not really super good with the Pyraminx as far as being fast, but magnets do seem pretty decent. I really do enjoy the click sound for some reason. I suppose it's reassuring to me that the piece is in place. Going into first turns, again, I wouldn't consider myself to be a Pyraminx master or an authority of any kind to determining what a good Pyraminx is, but again, it's pretty loose for my personal liking. This could be tightened up a bit, but overall, I would see myself using this more if I attempted to get faster with it. Breaking this down, the core, yeah. The edges, I, again, really don't know what is considered to be good or bad or advanced, but here's what the pieces look like, so there you have it. Anyways, moving on to my final thoughts. Out of all these 5 cubes, I personally enjoyed the 2x2 and 3x3. Pyraminx, you know, over there, again, I don't really solve the Pyraminx that often, so I'm gonna leave this kind of on its own side. As for the 4x4 and 5x5, these were the opposites for me. I found these to be a bit too unstable, and there were more things wrong with them than right. So hopefully these cubes come out on the low price, more on the budget side, and that way these can be more competitive in the market. Now that this is all out of the way, let's do a 2x2 through 5x5 relay.